Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the green room of DisrupTV. We're here with all our guests. We're going to talk with in the next hour. So in reverse order, we're going to ask our guests to introduce themselves, tell us where you're calling in from, and what you plan to talk about. So let's start with Andy. Andy, please say hello to our audience.
This is Andy Sack, live from Seattle. I'm co-CEO of Forum 3.
Great. Welcome, Andy. Adam.
Hi, everyone. Adam Brotman, live from Santa Barbara, California, here to talk about, and by the way, I'm co-CEO of Forum 3 with my buddy Andy, and we're here to talk about AI.
Yeah, congratulations to both of you. Your new book is a bestseller on Amazon. Came out last month. Can't wait to hear about the book. So welcome both.
Thank you.
Ravi, please.
Hi, everyone. Calling in from Atlanta. We're going to be talking about future of business in context of AI, but hopefully from a practitioner's point of view.
Terrific. Welcome. And of course, last but not least, Brian.
Hey, Vala. Hey, everyone. Nice to see you. Brian Shield, relatively new CIO for Safeguard Products International in Atlanta, and talking a little bit about a new podcast that we have that's just launched relatively recently, and some of the challenges that we kind of see in the CIO space.
Excellent. Welcome back, Brian. Okay, Elle, do your thing. Let's go live and out of the green room.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. Please follow us on X at DisrupTV Show. Send us your questions and we'll do our best to answer them live. Look who's here with me. Ray Wong, the co-founder of DisrupTV, stuck somewhere across the pond. And so it's our privilege to have my co-host, Esteban Kolsky, whom our audience is very familiar with. Esteban's currently working with Constellation Research as Chief Distiller. What a great title. Wow. And Board Advisor, generating research and advisory services to public and private boards across the spectrum. In addition to being a board advisor, and he's served in that capacity for many years, Esteban is a former research analyst founder. He served as the Chief Strategy Officer for Customer Experience at SAP, small company SAP, and was a director of research at Gartner. So this man, his whole life, has been researching and advising. Welcome, Esteban.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. And I've been told recently that if you say that you're a board advisor, you're not. It's kind of like, you're not supposed to brag about it. So I need to change my title, I guess. But thanks for that intro. I appreciate it.
I think Chief Distiller is a pretty awesome title.
I agree.
And talking about awesome people and awesome titles, our first guest, who was maybe the longest running CIO in pro sports before his current new chapter in life. But Brian Shield is CIO of Safeguard Products International, where he spearheads the company's digital transformation strategy, focused on innovation scalability. He leads the development and deployment of cutting-edge technologies to enable industry-leading products and services in the automotive industry. Brian was most recently, and I've known Brian this whole time, as SVP Chief Technology Officer of the Boston Red Sox, one of my favorite teams in Fenway Sports Management, where he led technology teams on all phases of the Red Sox strategy. He actually wears a big championship ring when you meet him in person at only special events. but he was there for, I think, 13, 14 years. So again, one of the longest running CIOs in the world of sports. Prior to that, he was EVP CIO at the Weather Channel. In 2025, Brian was selected to the CIO Hall of Fame, but by CIO.com and IDG. He founded the Boston CIO Consortium in 2015 and is national chairperson of Inspire CIO. His leadership and commitment to the Georgia business technology community was recognized when he received a Lifetime Achievement Award from Georgia CIO. Brian holds multiple patents. He's one of those actually super technical CIOs in media, digital media, engineering, and advertising. So welcome back, Brian, to Disrupt TV in a new capacity.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to be here. Last time we were having a little sports forum with our colleagues from the Bruins, Celtics, and Patriots, if I remember.
That was awesome. It's so cool to get all the CIOs of all the pro teams under one roof. And it was the CIO of the Celtics that hosted us right after they won the championship. So it was really cool. It was pretty awesome. Okay, you're now, you left the Boston Red Sox. By the way, what a great winning streak that they're on.
After I leave. Is that what you meant? On winning streak after I left?
Yeah, I hope you're still entitled to a big ring if something magical happens this season. But tell us about the big shift and the big decision you made to leave what it was and it was Fenway Sports Group. So you were advising Liverpool and the Penguins and the Red Sox and the racing team and the golf team, and the entire portfolio was following your technology vision.
My principal focus was over my 13, as I say, seasons in sports. It's like being a farmer a little bit when you sort of, work in sports. Most of my focus is really kind of historically was around the Red Sox and Penguins and a few other organizations there. But unbelievably great experience. Fortunate enough to be there. We won, 2 World Series, which was amazing. I think David Ortiz had a lot more to do with it than I did, but nonetheless, it was. Come on. Right. But it was great. We have an amazing team we built there, and it's such a great. Sports it's so much fun because you get a chance to kind of combine technology and fan engagement and deep analytics and emerging technology, kind of all sort of jammed into one, and it's. And a really kind of fun culture, really kind of fun and engaging culture. And so, 13 wonderful seasons. I had a chance working with some wonderful people.
So what was the draw? Yeah, go ahead, Esteban. And Esteban recently joined as Stiller. So you're going
from one end of the spectrum to the other, right? So what's the biggest difference that you noticed so far, or what's the biggest shock that you had so far?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny transitioning last couple months, to this new role with Safeguard. It's, the one thing is they're remarkably the same. Like, I know you would think, oh my goodness, like automobile industry and insurance related products and services and things compared to like sports, like how can they be the same? But, as we all dig down, you've got the same general challenges. Like how do we evolve to the next generation of technology and products and services? And how do we leverage AI? And how do we do an effective job with kind of, our different spends and risk, trying to mitigate risk and, and touch the lives of our customers in meaningful ways so we can differentiate ourselves and things. So, it's funny. It's been a while because I was there 13 years, but I have so many flashbacks now, whether it's the Red Sox or Weather Channel or before that, so I think, I've never worked in I've never worked in the same industry twice. So for me, I think that's an advantage in many ways because you get a chance to kind of bring a diverse perspective to some of the problems that we face.
And you are taking proactive steps as a CIO to share your lessons and invite other CXOs on your new podcast. Tell us why the new podcast, who you're partnering with. As someone who's been doing this for over 10 years, this is hard work. This is not, and you know this.
I do.
What was the inspiration behind it, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, it's funny. It's I followed Vala for many years, and I listened to a lot of podcasts, obviously, and I think if you look at the world that we're living in, it's oversaid, but like there's never been a time when things move at this pace. I mean, it's only going to increase in speed and expectations and things. And, there's never been a better time to build relationships. And so much of what our podcast called the CIO Project, where I co-host with my good friend and colleague, Howie Like, who is CEO of SherpaTechs. Howie and I have had the benefit of working together for many years across a number of companies and things, and Howie does a remarkable job. And what's interesting, what we try to make interesting, I should say, at least for those that come on, like Vala has, thoughtfully, and other CIOs and thought leaders and authors and things, is that we try to keep it real. One of the aspects of what we talk about is sort of an element we call confessions, as Vala knows. So we really try to talk a bit about like lessons learned, either through failure or adversity in some respects, and we talk about a little bit like what's going on in the industry, like what we think, leading thought leaders in the technology space and others want to hear. And it's great fun. It's an opportunity to kind of share the wisdom, if you will, of, we kind of try to attempt to crowdsource in some respects and operate a little bit like a virtual mentor, I think, in some respects to perspective or existing CIOs and CTOs and others that are in the technology field.
So what's been the feedback so far?
Really positive. Yeah, it's been, it's as you guys know, it's really kind of intoxicating because you don't go a week without sort of like wanting to like raise the bar, because it's you get feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Sometimes it's feedback, and it allows us to kind of grow. And we're going to try to do more. Not just with our guests, but we take more questions now. We're going to create different kind of segments. A little bit of a tip from you, Esteban, like, some of your constellation research, I think is such a great thing in terms of like what's in the news and what does the impact of that kinds of thing that's in the news have on people who are practitioners of technology, who kind of like have to roll up their sleeves every day. And, what does it mean to them? And what kinds of things should they be top of mind in their respective companies, so they can bring this information back to their businesses and hopefully, raise the bar.
How much more pressure on CIOs today versus 5 years ago?
I'd say a lot more.
I know there's a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah.
CIOs I connect with.
Yeah, please.
They're expected to know a lot about a lot, and I don't know if that's fair, but it is what it is.
Yeah, when you think back when someone coined the term, CIO career is over, part of that, if you think back on it, like it's literally one of the only jobs in the C-suite that has a rapid change, right? It used to be you were considered good or adequate if you could kind of keep the lights on, and then as that bar keeps changing, the nature of the kind of skills required changes, and not all of us are adept at being chameleons in some respect. Some are operationally oriented, some, chase emerging technologies, some are good in the boardroom, right? And so kind of knowing the right skill discipline and characteristics that are best for your business, I think is part of the challenge.
Are you finding the CIO agenda and the board agenda has quite a bit of overlap because discussions are becoming more technical?
I think they're becoming more technical. I think it reminds me a little bit when mobile apps came out. There was such a an explosion of ideas and like opportunities and a little SWOT analysis, like risks and threats, and and I think AI kind of engenders some of those same things, because now sort of like your average person can have a visibility into all this and have perspective. I think what worries me honestly though is if you go back, I don't know, 25 or more years, like if someone said to you, what's the one characteristic, if you're an aspiring CIO, that you need to have in order to be successful in your career, right? Every single company in the world would have said, you need to understand the business, and I think CIOs, because I spent a lot of time with them, took that to heart. They realized that, what, you're absolutely right. I used to be a great code jockey or something else in my past life, and now I got to make this pivot. And and all of them, I think, that are successful at least, took that incredibly seriously. I think the problem I'm seeing these days across virtually every company in many ways is that it's kind of pivoted now, right? So they've taken that on, but there was never a corresponding quid pro quo at the C-suite, right? There was never an understanding at the C-suite that you need to understand technology better. And now it's like the CIO, you don't want the CIO to just do it by themselves, right? It's too complex. It's too integrated with the business. You want to have your fingerprints on these things. In order to do that, you have to understand how the sausage is made.
It's a dance.
Yeah.
Here's a favor I'm gonna ask you. Do a sanity check for me, okay? Everything you're talking about is like what I'm finding on the board and executives. I'm finding CIOs reporting directly to the board. I'm finding, board members that don't have the technical ability that they require, and all this stuff. But I mean, let's get down to brass tacks, right? As a CIO, CTO, isn't it the answer to all these things that are constantly changing despite the hype and the shiny objects? Isn't it having an amazing infrastructure that supports all these new endeavors all the time? Isn't that what you're aiming for?
I think that's the foundation. So I would absolutely agree that as we in our organization think about moving from a Safeguard 1.0 world, from your side, Safeguard 1.0 to a Safeguard 2.0 world, I mean, I do think of it as a little bit of pyramid-like, where the foundation is sort of having that infrastructure that can effectively support it. But, it's like as you start layering up in there and you start thinking a bit about sort of the skills that are changing too, right? And so we're all sort of in a little bit of an arms race here for trying to find the right talent, whether it's, in your company, partnerships, offshore, nearshore, whatever the right thing is, it's, I'm just one of those people that I'm a huge believer that, successful CIOs never stop recruiting. And it's because you can't, and I think the skills that we're hiring are changing, we're looking for better athletes. So if we decide to pivot and change code bases or other things, you want people to be like, look at that as a great opportunity, not like they spent 3 years learning French and now you want them to learn Swahili, So.
Good luck, by the way. Swahili is a very hard language to learn.
But coming from a world of sports, and that's your pedigree, like investing in your minor leagues, building the bench, always recruiting and trading. I mean, that's what you've done for over 14 years. So it makes sense that you have that mindset, and you're looking for athletes and different skills, and you're the national chair of Inspire CX. So this is a network of 1,700 CIOs and CISOs. And you're leading this community. What are these folks talking about? What are the challenges and opportunities that's keeping them, maybe, I don't want to say up at night, but enhancing the sense of urgency they have in terms of how they run their business?
Well, thanks. It would be easy to say, Gen AI, because I think, everyone does. And that's absolutely there. I think it's also, there's a certain sentiment around business anxiety right now too, in the sense of, where's the market going? And I mean, the stock market continues to, go up, but I think there's like trepidation, among CFOs and other, C-suite leaders and things. And I think, it's interesting, you should dig into like generative AI, and we look at sort of solving problems with AI. I mean, they absolutely represent incredibly great opportunities for us, as companies, to solve problems and make people more efficient and productive and things. They also cost real money. And I think we're undergoing sort of a parallel path, just like my analogy back to mobile apps, if you will, in terms of like a little bit of epiphany model. I feel like we're back at when cloud started, and, where everybody jumped on the cloud at different stages. But once they get on there, then they kind of realize, oh, we should probably do FinOps. So we can actually understand how much this stuff costs, right? And I feel like, the equivalent of like AI ops is like a real deal now, right? Because you can spawn a lot of work and do a lot of things. And if you don't have a methodology, you really want to make sure that return on investment is legit, and the whole adage of fail fast is, needs to be ever more present, if you will.
So as Esteban said, it's infrastructure, it's understanding monetization and budgeting. What is this consumption-based pricing models, and how do I figure this out? And I mean, I think all of us are going through that process. Esteban, your final comments and questions for Brian.
So one final comment and question. You mentioned Gen AI, we mentioned AI, we mentioned infrastructure. So really short yes, no answer and a time frame. ASI, yes, no? By when?
Oh, AGI, is that what you said?
AGI, ASI, whatever you want to call it. They're all the same thing, Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I say yes. I'd say 5 years. If I had to put a stake in the ground. I know some will say next Thursday, but
Yeah.
Well, I say 30, so somewhere in between there. Next Thursday and 30.
Yeah. To me, it's sort of. I mean, we're left in a world these days with trying to define expressions too. So what that turns out to mean, I think, will the devil will be in the details as well.
True. Yeah.
I leave the futuring to the futurists. I just kind of try to keep up with all this stuff. So yeah, your guess is as good as mine. Brian Shield, congratulations on
Thank you.
The new gig. We miss you in Boston, although I know you're in town frequently, and I look forward to breaking bread with you. Thank you so much for your podcast. It's amazing, and we need more people who are generous enough to volunteer their time and connect and build relationships and share knowledge. So best of luck with that endeavor. And we look forward to having you on the show again. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, thank you for having me both. Esteban,
Cheers.
thank you.
Cheers. Brian's one of the smartest CIOs I've ever worked with.
I know.
And when you see him with his championship rings, it's pretty cool. The rings bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like the size of my head. The last one he had.
The most interesting thing is having a podcast and having access to 1,800, 1,700 CIOs and CSOs in a community. That's going to give you a lot of amazing information on a daily basis.
Stunning. When they host their event in Boston and they have like 500 C-suite folks in the conference, it's great. And he's the chairperson, so he's incredibly well connected. Our next guest, Ravi Pal, CTO of Ogilvy One. And Ravi is a results-driven CTO and seasoned technology executive with close to 30 years of driving digital transformation and building high-performance teams. Ravi specializes in enterprise architecture. We just talked about architecture, infrastructure, AI solutions, and platform strategy for Fortune 500 companies and innovation startups. Welcome, Ravi, to DisrupTV.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome.
Great to have you. Ravi, you recently spoke about it's people, not technology itself, that presents the biggest challenge in truly leveraging AI for next generation customer experiences. Talk to us about that. Talk about how do we keep people in the equation and how do we humanize technology and exceed expectations using all these new emerging technologies.
I thought we were trying to replace people. Come on, what's going on, man?
Well, I think jury's out there. So absolutely right. I think it's been a while. I spoke about it in March. But before we start with this discussion, so let's kind of level set certain things so that anybody who's listening kind of understands where I'm coming from, right?
And tell us about Ogilvy One, please.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Ogilvy One, we're a tech and data company, part of WPP, which is a large agency network. Our core business is designing relationships between brand and consumers. So very simple, but that's what we do. And in my role, I work with technology partners like Salesforce, Adobe, Google, what have you, design new offers, services that work best for our clients and solve their pressing problems. And I do work with some of the big names you will all be familiar with in this market, which I wouldn't use on this call, but we can discuss offline. But going back to the topic, Vala, the baseline would be that first of all, we'll all agree that this is one of the biggest tech revolutions we're living through.
Yes.
As a technologist, I'm very happy, but I do understand the anxiety everybody else is going through. But what a time to be part of this revolution. So there are two parts that I want to baseline first. One, that this is different to some of the other tech changes that we've seen in the past. This one cuts through across all organizational stack. It's not limited to one layer, like cloud revolution kind of primarily impacted infrastructure, mobile interface and channel and what have you. But this goes through everything. Pretty much anything that you can see in an organization. The second would be that for the first time we have to get comfortable with the idea that we'll have coworkers who are non-human. And those coworkers are going to make decisions like we do, right? So quite a seismic sort of a shift, and grappling with that is not easy. So if you take those two baselines and you underline the fact that every technology change is fundamentally a change initiative for an organization, you're kind of talking about the idea that I floated earlier this year, that to future-proof your business now, you got to focus on people. And naturally, people are resistant to change, so no surprise there. But this one, with those caveats, also then has this uncertainty about, so what does it mean for me? And in some cases, because it affects everyone across the organization, people are not as familiar as technologists are to the technology change. So there is that additional pressure of, I don't know what to do with this. And then, of course, the fear that Esteban, you talked about, right? Does this mean these digital coworkers are here to replace me, right? So if you put it all together, it's a fairly important change for any organization to go through. Now, if you had two spectrums, so you are an organization, business, enterprise, you could potentially say, okay, this is so huge that I should nuke everything I'm doing and restart, right? Or, I go with incremental, which means, I've got thousands of employees, I've got a running business, I can't just, throw it away. So the first part is probably for entrepreneurs, they'll find their opportunity to build new businesses in the similar areas. So, that'll happen. But for organizations, they can't be left behind. Let's call them incumbents for this discussion. Okay. So it's not just going to be sufficient that we do training programs that, okay, Ravi wants to learn about AI, expose them to one of the frontier models, teach them prompt engineering, good to go, not going to work. I'll take an example, which is closer to home. That's why I said, from a practitioner's point of view, and then we can extrapolate it. We can extrapolate it to a marketing process or a sales process or a creative process. I'm going to talk about software supply chain. My teams do software delivery for our customers, clients, as well as for products that we build. We're familiar with all the roles, right? The business analyst, BA, QA, developer, senior developer, architect, PM, you can name them, right? In a typical software supply chain. Pick any role. For this discussion, let's take business analyst as a role. Okay. What does a business analyst do? There are some inputs. So, it could be a UX, wireframe, IA as an information architecture, some meeting minutes, etc. Take that all, turn that into epics and nice user stories that everybody else who follows uses them to then, developer does that for development, QA for testing, etc. Now, I set out an objective beginning of this year that we're going to be doing more with less, which means that, we're going to increase our productivity of our people to a certain percentage by the end of this year. And so we took our supply chain and we said, we're going to infuse AI and see how this is going to work out. So take PA role. Now, all the information that I talked about as an input is available. So you train your digital coworker and produce a nice output, which is a great user story. Now, that user story then can be handed over to another coworker who then does, test case, test catalog development or test script development. Architect who kind of does initial design blueprint and so forth and so on. Now, if you focus on it, I said coworker, which means I could have had another AI agent pick up the output from the first AI agent, and then you have a chain, right? Now, if you take that back for a moment, I'll not go through the full example, but if you take a step back and say, so what does that mean? That means that the roles have to be redesigned. So now I fundamentally believe there are two categories of roles we'll deal with in an organization. One, which is orchestration. So orchestrators, like, playing in orchestras, Steve Jobs used to say. So now more so than ever, you're going to be dealing with both kind of workers, human workers and digital co-workers, and you're going to orchestrate them with, the business bounded context, which means you know the input and you kind of know the output. And then you'll place human beings at the right interjection points to make sure there is enough oversight. The second kind of role would be where you have expert collaborators, wherein AI becomes an expert collaborator with a developer, a data scientist, and what have you. So you kind of tech team to create an output. So that's the two categories. Now that also means your processes needs to be reimagined. You can't work with just old process. I'll just automate. That's not how it's going to work. You have to reimagine how work gets done. And once you apply that to any business process or any business context, the change has to be much more than just saying training. It has to be about reimagining career paths. It has to be about redesigning those processes and giving people the I don't want to use the word hope, but the motivation that allows them to think that this is a force multiplier. This is not to replace them, but to make them better. So each one of you can take this technology, augment how you get your work done, increase the output, innovation, get strategic delivery done. So therefore, I think people become the central cog. People are going to be the friction. People are going to be the accelerator. So and that's why I made that statement, Vala.
Let me pick apart. You gave us so much to think about and so many pieces, and I agree with virtually 85% of it. But I'm going to pick up one with you because I absolutely don't like the concept of anthropomorphizing, agents. Agents are pieces of technology we create to do a job. They're never going to be equivalent to human coworkers or part of a team or anything like that. I mean, why do you think that, and you're not the only one. So I'm like, I'm Don Quixote going against the windmill sometimes, right? But why do you think that what you're talking about and what a lot of people are talking about and anthropomorphizing and making humans, of like, pieces of code that somebody wrote that does one thing or, okay, at best, maybe great, but like you said, an expert maybe, but it's still a piece of code. Why do we give more authority and agency than that?
So I think it's a great question. And so let me caveat my response with two things, or rather one statement. AI is overhyped for today and underhyped for tomorrow. So kind of has the answer to your question. What that means is that, some of the things we're not saying that everything we're able to achieve today. But in context of where this technology is headed, you are going to be able to do more and more of these things with digital coworkers, as I outlined. So let's take an example. Again, I'll just expand on the example so that it remains relevant, right? So individual productivity is very easy to sort of, you can uplift the individual productivity today with any LLM, frontier model. Each one of us in our, as long as we understand what we have to do, what is the input, what is the output, we can, take advantage of a so-called AI, call it whatever you want to call it, and then, increase the productivity. You can go up to 40, 50, 60% of, increase in output, depending on, what work you do. But then when it comes to the workflows where, you have an individual and then you have to pass on the knowledge. There is a context that you're passing. There is tribal knowledge. It's not like everything has been coded. LLM understands each concept, etc. So you're going to be passing that context from one box to another box. That box could be, in some cases, a digital coworker because your input and output is kind of well defined. The caveat there is, Esteban, that we're dealing with a technology which is probabilistic. So, in 2023, I wrote my first agent, which was inspired by Baby AGI. Shout out to Baby AGI, person who wrote the code, I forget the name. And so, you could run the agent. It was basically multiple agents talking to each other, criticizing each other's idea or whatever. But you ran it 3 times, it gave you 3 different outputs. I mean, ballpark similar because it's same AI, but it gave you three different outputs, right? So that probabilistic problem remains. But having said that, today with prompt engineering and integrating it into deterministic systems through MCP, etc., without getting too nerdy, you are able to get to an output wherein you can control that I will always get this output 60% confirmed, 70% confirmed. My teams today are using what I just talked about. These agents, which have predefined actions that generate a story, and I've trained them to have a certain type of archetype, and you always will get that story output based on what input you provided. So longish answer, but I get the skepticism, but I think we have to caveat it with these two things, that we are able to do this today to a certain level. Tomorrow, we'll get to autonomous decisioning. We are not there yet. That's why I said it's overhyped for today. We're not there yet saying, okay, everything can be autonomous. You have to still define certain input and output, especially because we're working in a bounded context problem. Computers is fundamentally a bounded context problem.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not quite here yet. Last year, my company headquarters is in San Francisco. So last year when I was in San Francisco, when you saw Waymo cars, you always saw people in the corner taking pictures. Because it's so weird to see cars in the city without a driver. So I was at a leadership conference in San Francisco a month or so ago. You saw 10x more Waymos, and you didn't see people taking photos. In that community, it's just kind of standard practice that cars are going to go by in the hundreds, and there's not going to be a driver there. Now, the Waymo just surpassed Lyft for number of rides in San Francisco. In fact, one Waymo produces 150 human driver equivalents. Waymo is now valued at $45 billion. It's, I think, the fifth most valuable startup, at a multiple of 75 million in revenue and 45 billion in valuation. So it gives you a hint of the market's valuation on an AI native company. And this is a bolted on radar, LiDAR, cameras, ears, extended audio receivers, bunch of hardware on a Jaguar to a tune of about $235,000 per Waymo. It's not even the second generation autonomous vehicle. So as much as we talk about it's not here or it's in the future, like go in a city and you see self-driving cars. By the way, if you're in Austin, you see a car that doesn't have a steering wheel, doesn't have brakes or pedal, no mirrors. The Tesla autonomous vehicle has removed all human UI from it, and it looks unbelievably more slick and scary. So anyone doubting like this technology in business, just get a ride in the city like I have. And frankly, as an engineer, I was as scared as I was excited, because there's no steering wheel, there's no brakes, there's no mirrors. Like, I'm like, what is this? I'm in a bubble in a city. So anyway, my point is, it's closer than most people think. And the worst AI you use today is today's AI. So I can't even imagine year 2, 5, 10. My question to you, sorry, I just wanted to just like.
No,
that's okay.
I love the example. I love the example.
Amazing capability. Silos kills careers, businesses, and in the world of AI and all AI projects are data projects. Talk to us about, give advice to leaders. How do you break down silos, and how do you recognize silo as perhaps the biggest impediment to making forward progress in an AI-powered economy?
Yeah, well, so first, let's acknowledge all silos are socio-political. All organizations are right. All organizations are built around certain kind of social structure, and then it takes shape of it's mine, it's yours, and what have you, right? And then there are some which are genuine M&As, right? You acquire certain company, and then you tend to build those silos. The thing that we need to worry about with AI is that we're creating new kind of silos, because now I'll not say every. So most of the organizations I talk to, they're running like hundreds of experiments. Every department is doing their own. Every single business unit within a single business unit, there are 3 different folks who are focused on different functions are doing something else. New tools. Everybody's trying to figure out how they're going to use AI, etc. So you kind of will see an emergence of new silos. Basis of this, right? Because everybody wants to run with the speed and the change that is coming. Now, there are two ways to look at it, right? So one, that these silos are required in the sense because you do want to innovate, you do want to learn about how this thing works and what have you, but you do want to put a certain kind of blueprint around it. So what I generally advise to the leaders is that you first needs to have a why, a business imperative. And that business imperative sort of should give everybody an umbrella around which these experiments can take place, right? Or let's call it integrated intelligence strategy or what have you, right? And it has to be synergistic, right? So that a sales department and a marketing department don't go in different directions, right? The part 2 is that you must have an enterprise architecture for AI today. So we've been on this for 2 years. We still can't say we don't know how to do this, right? So the enterprise architecture has to look at 3 core elements. One element is trust, so that you can take away all the impediments, right? Am I using the AI ethically? Is my data secure, etc.? So you do the trust part first. Then you look at your integration. So question Esteban was asking, and I alluded to, so your data integration, you must have data available to all these different experiments in a way that, people can use it to create right output, but also connect your, probabilistic AI technology to deterministic systems that you have, because you're not going to replace them. Transactional systems are not going away, right? And then the third would be that you change the culture from being, always about big bang, we have to do this project, we need to know 2 years in advance, etc., to a culture where you allow a cross-functional team where a marketing, AI scientist, a technologist, etc., come together, take business problems, build them out to a point where they can then measure the ROI, and then decide whether to take it to industrial scale or not. So approve of that culture, create that culture, put that in, under the umbrella that I talked about. I think within these two things, you will be able to have lesser silos. You can't 100% eliminate them, and you'll probably have a better business outcome.
How long? I mean, it sounds great. I sounds fantastic. But how long does it take the average company or the traditional company up and coming into AI these days to actually take on this? This is a gigantic transformation project at an enterprise level, right? It's not just digital transformation. This is like, culture and systems and technology and everything. So how long do you think it takes a company to go through that process and get to that utopic element that he just described?
You need an exceptional CTO like Ravi.
You do. Well, there's only one of him. So, what do the normal people do, Ravi? What do the normal people do?
I was about to say hire us. We help you do it faster.
The next 10 years. I mean,
you set me up for that. You set me up for that.
Short answer, Esteban. We're going to be in the state of beta for a while. Yeah. And I think we need to be comfortable with that. As Vala said, everything is going to be next week, something new, what have you, right? So if you put the right engine in place today to make sure that then you can continuously evolve from here is what you can do. If you're a C-suite today, like I said earlier, you got to pick your, you can have a toolkit. You can look at people, process, tech, data, what have you. The templates are there, right? But you got to put the right engine in place today with the right leadership, and then constantly keep itching at it. I think there is no one silver bullet. Every organization will evolve differently.
It's a great answer, Ravi. Thank you so much for your shared wisdom, and we look forward to reconnecting with you and making sure we keep the humans at the center of all that we do as we embark on this incredible journey with new emerging technology. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you so much.
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you. Train like a marathoner, but be able to run sprints. Ravi said, have a long-term view, but don't be afraid to experiment and run sprints. Since we started with the CIO in the world of baseball, this is what we call the cleanup hitter spot. When you bring extraordinary guests, and they hit a grand slam and bring everything home for us. And what an honor for us. We have two authors of a best-selling book right now on Amazon, best new release on Amazon. Adam Brotman, former chief digital officer at Starbucks, co-founder of Forum 3, and co-author of AI First, the playbook for a future-proof business and brand. And he is with his co-founder and co-author, Andy Sack, former Microsoft advisor, co-founder of Forum 3, and again, co-author of AI First. Please allow me to introduce you both separately before we begin. Adam, again, co-founder, CEO of Forum 3. He was the inaugural chief digital officer at Starbucks, where he played a pivotal role in launching their renowned mobile payments and loyalty platform. Adam was named number 2 in Fast Company's 100 most creative people and earned the title of CDO of the Year. That's awesome. Andy Sack is co-founder again and CEO of Forum 3. He brings more than 25 years of entrepreneur and investment experience into high tech and finance. As a founder and managing partner of Keen Capital, focusing on blockchain ventures, and former advisor to Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, Andy has been on the forefront of digital and innovation. He has a successful track record of including leading Techstar Seattle, and selling multiple technology companies to giants like Microsoft, New York Times Digital, showcasing his deep understanding of technology trends and business strategy. Welcome, Adam and Andy, to Disrupt TV, and congratulations on your amazing book.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, tell us a little bit about yourselves and the journey of partnering, not just with Forum 3, but writing a book together.
Andy, you want to take this one?
Sure. Both Adam and I are career technologists. I was a Web 1 entrepreneur, a Web 2 venture capitalist, and now I guess now I guess I'm an entrepreneur again, back to my roots. And as a swan song in our career, Adam and I, we met over 20 years ago in Seattle in an organization called EO, and we were in Forum 3. And both Adam and I turned to ourselves around the time that Web 3 happened, but really when Gen AI came out, and we were like, let's get back in the game. And we're passionate about helping enterprises utilize and capture the productivity gains from Gen AI. We think it's the most exciting time in technology today. And this is the most transformative human invention ever.
Adam, any spirited discussions on the title and how the writing process? And
that's the right question. Who won?
Yeah.
Who won?
It's not easy writing a book in a coffee.
Well, I don't know if this is a family show, if I'm allowed to say it, but the actual, we've had 3 different titles. AI first became the title of the book, but it originally was called Our AI Journey as a provisional title, because we didn't know anything about generative AI when we saw ChatGPT in November of 2022. And we were going to write a book on digital loyalty, digital transformation in the enterprise. And we were approached by Harvard Business Review, and we asked if we could write a book about our own learning journey. We really wanted to round out our digital transformation skill set by really understanding both what is this technology and how can businesses adopt it and apply it. We had a sense that this was going to be important. So we asked if we could go on a journey and publish our journey and do it in a serialized, community-based fashion. And so they said yes, and it became Our AI Journey for a minute. It almost became titled The Holy Shit Moment, because we thought that was better.
That would have been a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah. It would have been a better title in a lot of ways.
I can see the cover with the S, a little apostrophe, a little hashtag,
exactly.
and all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Andy, it was really Andy's thought that we should call it that. Now, we ended up compromising and calling the intro chapter The Holy Shit Moment. And it really was because it was sort of a double meaning, right? This is a bit of there's both the issue of like, when you first realize what this technology is and what it's capable of, you have your own holy crap moment. But then there's also the fact that it's sort of like how people feel when they realize that someone's going to really move their cheese when it comes to like this. We're all going to be impacted by this, good or bad. There's a lot of unknowns. When we start out the book, we can talk about it in a second, but we start out the book with our interview with Sam Altman. And really that was when we had our first holy shit moment, when it was like clear that where this technology was going and where these frontier labs and systems were going, we were like, wow, business will never be the same. The world will never be the same. We really have to figure out how to help business leaders, because that's what we do, like understand what's going to change and how they can take advantage of it. And it's like Esteban said on the last segment, it's a wholesale, multi-month, maybe even multi-year transformation. And so we thought about writing our book after telling our journey with that mindset and timeline in mind.
So Esteban asked our first guest, an extraordinary CIO who's the chairman of the largest CIO group that I am aware of, about AGI. And Brian said he thinks about 5 years. But it turns out both of you asked Sam Altman the same question. He said 5 years.
Everybody said 5 years.
Altman said 5 years, but he also said maybe slightly longer. But he has said, but no one knows exactly when or what, if it means for society. So I'm guessing that was the holy shit moment for you, because a leader of a frontier doesn't quite know the timeline and certainly can't predict what it means for society. Talk to us why that was such a profound moment for both of you.
The actual holy shit moment in that meeting I mean, there were multiple holy shit moments.
I suspect
and I
when you're
stand by,
ultimate,
It was a holy meeting, right?
yeah.
and I stand by the fact that it would be a much better title for the book. But there were in the meeting, we were both, Adam and I were talking to him about marketing and design. And, you know, it was about 2/3 of the way through the meeting. And Sam said, you know, I don't really know much about marketing or design, but 95% of marketing as we think about it, know it today, will be done by AGI in 3 to 5 years. And the meeting continued, and we talked about, at that point, AGI and the time horizon, and we talked about how nobody really knows exactly how these models work, and nobody can predict the future in general, but nobody can, given the pace of the technology, can predict the future of what it means to our society, our politics, the nature of business, and our personal lives. Like, we're in a confluence of technological advancement. Gen AI is leading the way, but you know that we're looking over the shoulder at robotics. There's a whole host. There's an explosion of things going on.
Right.
So we came out of that meeting and we talked about that 95%. 95% of marketing as we know it today will be done by AGI in 3 to 5 years ago. That interview was 18, 20 months ago. So we're, you know, if that was before, you know, a number of announcements in the Gen AI space. So his timeline is, I think, directionally correct. Hard to know whether 95% of marketing will be, but that statement really, when he said that, we were like, whoa, like this is a big deal, and we need to learn more. And really, that's the message of the book, is we lay that out through a series of interviews to try and encourage people that this is unlike any other human invention. And we encourage people not to stick their head in their sand in their personal lives or in business, and actually start to utilize it, because there's some amazing opportunities and gains to be had with it.
And you interviewed some big thinkers, titans of the industry. Esteban, with your question, but I mean, when you look at your book and the folks you interviewed, these are folks that are unicorns in terms of founders and impact on society and technology. Reid Hoffman, Bill Gates, Sam Altman. You know, you had access to some incredible minds. Go ahead, Esteban.
I find it fascinating that, you know, following what Vala was saying, which was going to be my statement. It's like Bill Gates wrote about this in 1999. Reid Hoffman, you know, been writing about it for 5-6 years, and one of the first successful creators of a digital twin that you know, I mean, pioneer and leader in the concept of leveraging this stuff. But considering all this stuff, and you know, by the way, Holy Shit would have been a much better brand, but we're going to talk about that later. But considering all this, what is like, you know, the biggest takeaway that you both got? I mean, either one of you can start, that you both got from all this stuff. Forget the entire book. If I say summarize the book in like one lesson, what's the one lesson that you think that is gonna, you know, get people to run to buy the book to get the rest of the pieces behind it?
You know, I'd say probably the first lesson, number one, is AI first companies start with an AI first leader. And, you know, we have a couple other key lessons, but it really is the CEO. And I can't emphasize that enough, that you know, that sounds like almost like it's cliche, but if you don't have at least the CEO saying, I understand that this is going to be a big deal. I might not understand it myself, but if he or she has to be at least curious enough and have the instinct enough that the company needs to at least embark on its version of a transformation around this technology, or else it's going to get left behind. If you don't have that, this kind of transformation will die 1,000 small deaths through, you mentioned it before, like siloing, or it'll be considered a tech implementation project, which is the natural like muscle memory of the organization, which it's not a tech implementation project. It is a business mindset. And Esteban, you said this earlier, cultural mindset transformation project. So you got to start with the CEO that at least endorses, blesses, if not leads the charge. Now, ultimately, like Ravi was saying on your last segment, and I thought he was spot on so much, like you do need a cross-functional team that will effectively that could be 3 people, it could be 10 people. You might have a chief AI leader, you might not, but the point is you need a small group, probably led by a person that's going to lead the organization through the transformation with the seal of the king or queen at the top of the organization that says, we're going to do this, and this is not going to be easy, but it's going to be critical that we adopt this technology in a way that makes sense for our company now, or else we're going to get left behind. That was kind of one of the key lessons, is that this is real and you got to take it that seriously, and it's not going to be easy, but you got to start now.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And when I think of the title of your book, AI First, and I use the analogy with the last guest, somebody had to decide, we're going to design a robo-taxi without a steering wheel. To get there, it's not a human first design, it's an AI first design. Because somebody at Tesla decided, and I use Tesla because in Austin, the robo-taxis don't have a steering wheel right now. Somebody years ago decided it's wasteful to have a steering wheel because we're going to design cars for riders, not drivers. That can only come, in my mind, through an AI first strategy. And when he talked about Bill Gates, he talked about productivity in essence, in terms of quality, quantity, and efficiency. And he says it's about doing more, doing better, and doing it with less. Doing it with less with an AI first design in robotaxi second gen is no mirror, no gas or brake, no steering wheel, no back window. So you're taking all these human interfaces out, and yet we've seen with Waymo, 8 years on the road, 0 fatality. So not only is it cheaper to produce, it's safer. So talk to us about, when you draw an evolution of like a newspaper in a digital era to what we're talking about in AI. Give us some more sense of what does AI first means in terms of businesses recognizing steering wheels in sales, service, marketing, human resource, and removing them in the next 2, 5, 10 years, whatever the horizon.
And don't forget 24/7 operations with no breaks, no bathroom breaks, no food breaks, no sleep breaks or anything too, right? So
and I have to say there are 5 million men and women in this country that earn a living through ride sharing, and I'm not even including truck drivers. So when we talk about societal impact on this technology, when we talk about 90%, by the way, I'm a former CMO before I joined Salesforce. Are we going to have copywriters? Are we going to have people testing marketing journeys and A/B testing campaigns with human labor? No, because the scale and the speed and the intellect of multi-agentic orchestration in marketing is going to be too good to ignore. This is machine scale that businesses are experiencing, where you're never going to go back. Once you implement and you see, it's just hard to go back. You can't justify it. There's still EBITDA and gross margin, and language of business is finance. So once you take this for a test drive, you're not going back. Anyway, your thoughts about
what's the first step? I mean, that's what I think that Vala is getting to, right? It's like, how do you start? This is massive, man. This is more than holy shit. This is like holy words that I cannot pronounce and then shit, right? So
you asked a bunch of questions there. I'll start with one, and then I'll let Adam comment. I think I'm gonna combine, Vala, your two questions, which were what was the big takeaway for me from the book, and separately the question from Bill Gates. And for me, really the story of that you just described of the Tesla car and comparing a Tesla car to a 1950s Mustang convertible. And if you showed that to two people in either time, they'd be like, whoa, these are they're the same thing. They're transportation devices, but they're insanely different. And by the way, if you go further back to prior to when the car was developed, people were on horses and horse and buggies.
Yeah.
And so, Bill Gates talked about in the interview with Bill, and we talk about this in the book, a chapter, he talked about productivity, but really the thing that stood out in that interview for me was he described his holy shit moment of going to Palo Alto, to seeing the Alto computer in Palo Alto back in the late 80s, and how that experience that laid the groundwork for him he saw the first GUI, the interface, and that laid the groundwork for Microsoft's next 15 years. And he said that was a really pivotal moment where the light bulbs went off in his mind. he described that and compared it to seeing ChatGPT 4.0, not 3.5, 4.0, when it passed the AP biology exam, and he thought it was going to need another 10 years to get to passing the AP biology exam. And he said that seeing ChatGPT was equal, if not more significant than seeing the first GUI in terms of the size of the technological advancement that OpenAI had achieved. And so I go, but you're again going back to your comment about the drivers and truck drivers. This is a holy shit moment for our society, for businesses, business leaders, and individuals. And the point of the book is to bring that home and make sure that people have a playbook and can take the first steps towards starting to engage, because sticking your head in the sand is not the right answer.
Yeah, and I would just add, in Esteban, you kind of asked as a follow-up question, how do you get started? What do you do with that? And that was a big, if not the big question we were trying to answer in the book. The reason it's called AI First is because, the Silicon Valley has this history of what does it mean to be digital first and then mobile first. And now we wanted to know, what does it mean to be AI first? And the truth of the matter is we don't know. I mean, even asking Bill Gates and Sam Altman and Reid Hoffman and Mustafa Suleyman, one of the original co-founders of DeepMind, who's now the CEO of AI at Microsoft. I mean, we were like, if these folks, if anyone has the answer, it's going to be these folks. So these are the folks that and let's triangulate. And what we did learn that was consistent is this change is coming. It's profound and it's coming fast and it's coming across all these different dimensions, all these different functions. And it's unlike anything from before in terms of transformations. However, no one knows exactly what it means. So we thought, well, what do you do with that? Well, one of the things I'd say, and we say in the book, is you get started by getting smart. Like, get a small, not everyone's going to become an AI expert, but encourage the organization to become curious, to become AI literate, set up an AI academy, encourage AI office hours, create an AI council, an AI policy, and really start sharing and evangelizing in a fun but urgent way, and with the executive sponsorship, because every company is going to transform in its own way, and it's going to have to figure out its own playbook in detail. We wanted to make sure that, we didn't want to come out and say, well, this is what you got to do with this function and this org change and this particularity, because the truth is it's moving too fast. And the one thing that is for sure is that every organization right now needs to create those foundational elements that will seed them being an AI first organization. And I think if it's done with authenticity and curiosity, and even, one of the case studies in our book is we talked about the company Moderna. They were one of the pioneers in really doing an AI transformation. And they did a prompt contest, for example, sponsored by the head of AI and the CEO. And they created an AI champions council. And I think those are the types of things that we found. I'll leave, I know we're running out of time, but I'll leave you with this thought for everyone that comes from the book and from all of our work, which is that, you're like, if you try to ask an organization today to just jam in an AI first playbook, it's not going to work. The truth of the matter is people won't even know what you mean. So a big part of what we do, for example, we offer these boot camps. Earlier on the show, you asked, how long does it take? Well, we offer call it a 1 month, 4 hours worth of content, an hour a week boot camp with a core group of people to get them on their way. Do they become an AI first organization at the end of that 4 weeks? No way. I mean, maybe if they're really good, they could become an AI first organization in 6 months to a year. But reality is we're just starting them on a journey that's probably a multi-year journey.
I like the 6 months to a year more than I get the overnight thing. And, I mean, we're not getting to AGI by Thursday, and I don't think we're getting to be an AI first and by Friday. So
yeah, and this is the importance of Forum 3. It's the importance of your best-selling book. Staying teachable is, I think, critically important, because I'm not sure the experts of yesterday are the experts of tomorrow. Clearly, you met with the world-leading, icons of the industry, and they have uncertainty and angst, and remind all of us to maintain a beginner's mindset and have a higher sense of urgency about this one. than the prior technologies of the past. I think that's an important takeaway. Congratulations on your new book. We look forward to learning more about Forum 3 and helping our communities not be so much worried, but perhaps have a more optimistic, enthusiastic point of view when it comes to technology such as AI. Congratulations, Andy and Adam, and thank you for being on the show.
Vala, Esteban, thank you so much for having us. And if the audience wants to reach out to us, go to forum3.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We'll share your and promote your work across multiple social networks. So thank you again for being on the show. Great having you.
So Vala, question for you, like I ask everybody else. AGI, ASI, whatever you want to call it. Yes, no, when? I'll give you my answer after. I always want to be last so I can actually,
I'm not even sure if there's a standard definition for it.
There's no definition. That's the first step. But yeah.
I made that comment, the worst AI you use is the one you use today. 59 million people 100 million people within 59 days were experimenting on ChatGPT back in October, November of 2022. And now you got 2.5 billion people using technology in a variety of ways, whether it's at home or work. I live with digital natives, teenagers, and early college students like you do.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, we're in the same camp. So when you are surrounded by digital natives, people like, I'm a digital immigrant or an analog person. I wasn't born mobile, social, in the cloud. Just happened to hang out with folks that are in the space. They learn differently. They connect differently. They're faster. Their rate of learning is far. I have a 15-year-old son who is a quant, and when I see him gaming and I see him, how quickly he has access to information, and how quickly he actually distills information. He'll ask me, who's the greatest point guard in the basketball, and I'll give him a name. And he'll come back and say, Dad, he's like 14th in scoring, 10th in assists. He hasn't won a championship. He's not even in my top 5. And I'm like, I can't believe that my answers are being vetted in real time. So, it bothers me that I no longer, I have to work in a grounded truth environment, even with my children at home. So I can't even imagine the pressure when you're presenting to a board and how a board member can, within seconds, vet your commentary. So regardless of how quickly we get to a point where software has agency to really reason and do it accurately and have dimensionality to it. And, I don't know. I really don't know. But I think we'll be talking about this for a decade or more. So, whether it's 5, whether it's 10, this is a journey where I'm going to retire and I'm going to be watching on the sidelines at some point. Fortunately, today I'm in R&D labs where these things are being built. So, you and I get firsthand exposure to this.
Yeah.
So it's cool. And some of the things I see will not be in business for some number of months, years, but it's remarkable. It's a remarkable.
Let me leave you. Since we both work in enterprise tech, right? I mean, let me leave you with something that is gonna that you can use in your future meetings with executives and board members.
Please.
64% of CEOs think that their boards don't have the necessary talent or understanding to help them create, strategize, plan, or monitor AI. Okay.
It's remarkable.
And here's the worst part. 20% of board members think that they can do that. So it's not only 64%, it's 80%. 4 out of 5 board members are not qualified in quotation marks to get there. So when you say you're getting better in real time, my goodness, there's been examples of people putting Gen AI to work as advisors to boards that have fantastic results, mostly because most of the board members and most of the executives are not there yet. That's why efforts like the one that we talk about today, perfect. This is what we need. We need people to educate and train executives and board members to get to be digital immigrants, like you said, or we're never going to get to our kids' level.
No. I've given up on that battle, but I have to tell you, my feeling is that most of our careers, for most people, obviously present company excluded, not you, but most people, we operate like cooks. Somebody gave us a recipe. We followed the recipe to create a delicious meal. And so we were learning by analogy. What we need to do is operate like chefs. A chef knows the ingredients and the taste of each ingredient. When the recipe is missing, a chef can combine ingredients and create a delicious recipe. A chef learns by first principle. When you're talking about technology like this, and as important as it is, I think business leaders and boards need to operate like chefs. They need to operate by first principle, not analogy, because some of the recipes we use to build our companies are no longer relevant. You got to throw away those recipes and create new ones. And I have to say, one of my favorite movies is Oppenheimer. And I like movies that are based on true stories and true events. And Niels Bohr, who was the godfather of CERN, who was atomic physics, won the Nobel Prize in 1922. At one point, Niels Bohr turns to Oppenheimer and he says to Oppenheimer, "You need to convince the politicians this is not about new tech. This is a new world." And I don't want to equate AI to the atomic bomb, but that scene stuck in my head because I think whether it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, we are embarking in something that's going to redefine society more impactfully than any other tech. So we need to have that urgency that this is more than just a technology conversation. This is bigger than that. It's bigger.
And we blew through the timeline, so I'm going to let you wrap it up because we can talk about this forever, But but I think that we need to move on to better pastures now. But thank you for allowing me to help you and substitute poorly Ray on today's show.
Listen, I still felt like you were Batman, and I wasn't even Robin. I was the butler. So you're again the chief distiller. Next week, episode 405. Before we go, Lee Rain, director, Imagining the Digital Future Center at Elon University. We have Henrik Waldron, co-founder of BarkBox, partner at Prehype, and author of Me, My Customer, and AI: The New Rules of Entrepreneurship. And lastly, Margaret Moore and Jeffrey Hall, co-authors of The Science of Leadership: 9 Ways to Expand Your Impact. We have, I think...
I'm going to guess that AI is going to be part of the conversations next week.
Just like the board meetings you're hosting, I can't imagine you're escaping this topic.
I haven't been to a single freaking meeting in a year and a half where AI was supposed not to be a topic, but became the leading topic of discussion. This is true.
Your title should be AI Distiller in Chief.
No.
I think that's the
AI is a trick. There is a parlor trick. That's all it is.
All right,
AI without people managing it, it's nothing.
I love that. Okay, if it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. And thank you, Esteban, for filling big shoes this week in Ray's absence. Great to have you.
I hope I didn't disappoint. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.